where the truth cuts through.
John, good to have you here with me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we just got back from the SAFRE conference in Raleigh, and I thought it'd be interesting to sit and go over some of the numbers we got from survey we were kind of not informally doing, but dealing with firefighters there. And I know you and I kind of had a little joke going on about what's the worst killer, cardiac or cancer, because I think we each have interest in both of those. By the way, this is John Hutton. You'll get to meet him a little bit more. He's going to get his own special episode before too long. But John, I wrote down some of the notes here and about some of the causes. I want to get kind of your feedback on it because you've been around the military, you've been around medicine for a long time. You have a lot of input, and you're with Interceptor Health right now, and a lot of this falls into your wheelhouse, right?
Indeed.
So no doubt the two biggest things everybody kept saying over and over were cardiac and cancer. The two big C's have been killing firefighters for a long time. Did you find that surprising at all?
No, I really did not. But what I did find surprising was as I dove into it, because before I really started doing this, I started to research, and I wanted to know everything I could know about everything. And it's when you go a level down and you identify some of the causes and some of the reasons that you don't necessarily come intuitively to mind.
Right.
And, for instance, with, chemicals, PFAS and what have you, you've got, protective gear and masks and such like that. But until you do the research and find out that, the equipment is not infallible, nothing is infallible, that this increases the risk, the adrenaline surges, the sleep patterns that are involved. All of these things work together to create somewhat of, if I can borrow a term, perfect storm, which tends to drive the incidence of these unfortunate health conditions well above the normal with respect to our firefighters.
Yeah, no doubt. And, with us coming up on our 10th anniversary with the North Carolina Firefighter Cancer Alliance, we've talked a lot about cancer, and we know it comes from everything from the stuff that's burning in fires now because they're different than they were 30, 40 years ago. We know that stuff stays in our gear a long time, apart from the PFAS. Whenever you go to a fire, it's going to stay in there unless you make an effort to wash it out. In fact, we've learned that if you just simply wash your gear, it's going to reduce the amount of carcinogen material that's locked in almost back down to the pre-fire level. So there's some really cool stuff to see there. But, the cardiac portion, we've always known that's been an issue for firefighters. We try to be healthy, but, we've got the Hometown Hero Act here. So if you have a, heart attack within 24 hours of an active scene, guess what? You're considered a line of duty death. We don't want it to ever get to that point.
Of course.
But we've known it's been a problem. So those two weren't so spectacular, I guess. But here's another one I like, sleep.
Yeah, sleep is another one I don't think I was aware of. And again, we actually found, or as I looked at the list, I saw 3 categories of things that the firefighters were answering. Right. You see the actual disease states, cancer, cardiac, a lot of mental health challenges that these good folks experience. But then when you get to sleep and some of these others, now we're clearly in the category of underlying causes.
Right.
So it's not really the same thing, but it's part of the same continuum. And it shows an interesting awareness that the firefighting community is developing for what really they have to go after and protect against. Still a third category which emerged was environment type factors. One could look at the fact that they are immersed in diesel fumes quite a bit as they're working on their trucks and what have you. And there were, I want to say, how many did we get? Like 15, 16, 17 different things on the list. And there was a definite, it was interesting because some of them were repeat answers showing a good awareness. And then some of them were answers that may have been singleton, but, we're dealing with an N of 17, not an N of, a couple of hundred. where I think we would have really seen some very interesting correlations if that environment at the show permitted that much data gathering. So I really, it was an interesting educational process to go through. And whether they were younger firefighters or old, the awareness was growing amongst both groups.
So something is funny you mentioned that. We talk about sleep, and we know that's linked to your mental health. It's linked to your heart health. All that fits together. But you did mention talking to young firefighters versus older firefighters, and there was a gamut that came through the booth. But the thing that was interesting, the younger firefighters were more concerned about the cancer, the cardiac, because that's what they've been taught. But now, when you talk to the older firefighters, the ones that have been around the learning more, they're talking about things like sleep.
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones talking about the mental health and mental fitness. They're also the ones that are talking about, hey, we're out of shape. We can't do our job because we're fat. We're not working out enough. We need to improve our skills. So it's really interesting to see how different age groups are aware of probably what the other age group would be concerned with, because you would think older guys would be concerned about cancer and cardiac and younger people about mental health and fitness, but it's just
the other way around. And I think that's because you are seeing, and I think ultimately the younger group is going to become aware of all of it, because you're exactly right. The older firefighters are teaching and talking to the younger firefighters, the newer firefighters, probably even during their training when they're in the academy.
Yep.
They're being made aware of these things because there is a full-on effort to try to get this as early as possible. And if one can come out of the academy at the age of, let's just say 21 or 22, and they are already equipped with the knowledge that these are going to be issues, and they're already thinking about, how do I avoid this? How do I not end up with a bunch of plaque in my heart, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's firefighters taking care of firefighters.
It's really interesting. When I started talking about cancer 10, 11, 12 years ago, I would go to a station, maybe a volunteer department, pick the small town, and I literally would be in a room full of people that would keep dwindling down during my 2-hour presentation. And I remember one time a chief said, I don't have time for this crap. I'm going to bed. And he literally went upstairs, went to bed, and that was it.
Never woke up.
Well, I don't know about that, but there was one firefighter that stayed. But as we've gotten to where we are now, you ask any firefighter, hey, what are the challenges like we did here?
Right.
Cardiac and cancer, they're right up there. Guess what? The message is out. That's the first step in the battle of saving firefighters. The first step is education, and it's obviously working. I mean, we got a ways to go, but
the other one that I really never gave that much thought to was the fitness and the health. And I want to say that the honesty and introspection, where some of the firefighters said, yeah, I gotta get a handle on this, because I want to stay on the trucks. I want to keep doing my job. And I know that continuing on in an unhealthy lifestyle is not compatible with that goal. So they are very actively trying to do right by themselves in a physical sense, both in terms of diet and exercise in particular, to see if they can't trim up a little bit and get into a better position to do and continue doing their job.
And the interesting thing about being fit, I'm fat and overweight. I'm not, fighting trim like I seem to be talking about. But I think the fitness is something that needs to be looked at through a lens, according to your job in the fire service. What are you doing? But the other thing is functional strength, because a lot of times we get lost in, how much can you bench press? How long does it take you to run a mile? Those things are our metrics, but what's your functional strength? Can you climb a ladder? Can you lift a given amount of weight? Can you drag a person, drag a dummy, whatever the case is? The functional strength is
Carry a hose.
Exactly.
I can't even imagine having those weigh. I've never tried to pick up a roll.
Well, when you do like a jar pat, like we did back in the day when I was qualifying, it would be a 50-pound vest you would have to put on to simulate and climb 3 flights of stairs. That doesn't seem like much, but it it can get you.
Yeah, it wasn't entirely different from when we had to put on in military training these rucksacks that were probably somewhere in the same range.
Right.
And, hump up and down hilly country. That's that's not easy.
Yeah. So the functional strength is a huge portion of that fitness that I think that they're talking about. But also kind of along with fitness is your skill set. Are you practicing your skills? The skills you need for your job. A lot of times they involve swinging an axe, using a Halligan. How are you going to do that? And guess what? If you're not able to do those things, but you could bench press 225,
But what else can you do with it? Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
you look at any competitive athlete, whether it be swimming or some sort of a track and field event, they are going through the motions and practicing the aspects of, I'm most familiar with swimming, so a guy who's a good butterflyer is going to be working on butterflies and be working on starts, turns, underwaters, which is what they do coming off the wall. They're going to be practicing repetitively those things because those are the skill sets that are required to make them better athletes. And the coaches are very good at keeping them on focus.
Yeah, and that's likewise like when we train. Training in the gear that you're going to be fighting fire in is critical. Yes, PFAS, that's a whole different story, but you have to practice in the gear you're going to do it. You're not going to go practice football and not wear your pads. You might warm up without them, but you're going to wear your pads when you practice.
I think the not practicing in the gear, I mean, I look at that gear and, here we are in North Carolina, I'm in Florida, and I can't even imagine how warm it gets and how quickly some of these firefighters must dehydrate and how close of a level of attention they have to pay to that, because that's going to be the difference between, collapsing at a scene and not collapsing at a scene.
And having cardiac event, because
That as well.
dehydration plays into that.
It certainly does.
So it's amazing how tightly knit we talk about the cardio, the fitness, the cancer. All of these things are woven together, and that's what we're figuring out. But I had a couple others on here that I thought that were kind of cool. One of them was caffeine use. Caffeine's a great thing.
Oh boy, do I know that one. That's a very common thing amongst, I think, a lot of professions, and again, the military is no exception.
Oh,
we
for
like
sure.
our coffee, and I think you can get to the point where you're running. That's still, it's cardio effective, so it is going to change your heart rate. And that is most certainly going to play into, if there are other health risk compromises, that is a problem. It doesn't mean don't ever drink coffee again, but don't drink the whole pot.
Right. And one of the things that we have figured out is that caffeine can also help your focus. And if you have, and I know there's been times that I've been woken up at 2:00 in the morning to go do an investigation, and I'm bleary-eyed, I'm not feeling great, but that cup of coffee that I drink while going to the scene, guess what? It helps me focus a little bit better on what I need to do. But when you sit in a class and you see the guy that'll have 3 big monsters lined up beside him, and he'll tear through 2 of them before lunch and 1 after lunch, you wonder how the heart doesn't explode. So
It's, I think when you look at cigarettes and nicotine, it's the same thing. Cardio effective, vasoconstriction and things like that are going to increase blood pressure, and that's certainly not a good thing.
No, definitely not at all. So caffeine was one, but here's one that I know you and I talked a little bit about: tourist.
That I did find very interesting, and because I could correlate it with something in my own life, where we used to go to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
Right.
And before it became a year-round community, you would have a phenomenal influx of people coming in. And a lot of people means a lot of, of course, I've learned that, most firefighters are EMTs, and they go out on a lot of the percentage of calls are for health issues. And so in the summer months at a resort area, I mean, people, it's especially somebody who's not used to standing out in the heat, heat casualty after heat casualty after heat casualty.
It'll get you.
And those firefighters are burning out the door to go help them out. And plus, obviously with a lot of people in vacation resort area, there's there is a better chance of some inappropriate behavior concerning fire.
Yep.
Which might, in fact, cause a blaze, and then you really got those firefighters moving.
And, I think it's important to get a little context behind where that comment came from. I was talking to a firefighter that's in one of our beach communities, and he was saying that, a couple months out of the year, they almost double their population. And during that window of time, those guys are running nonstop like you were talking about, but they're super stressed as well because they're constantly worrying about trying to manage the beach, manage the different things going on. So, we don't always think about those things, but that shows that, certain departments, when we look at our health and wellness, it can be very unique to where you're at. And I thought that was a good example.
And even the stress of the non-fire related call, the call that's just health. I mean, there's that same adrenaline surge and sense of urgency because that's really the ultimate thing they do is they save lives and protect property, and in that order. And they are after, every time they end up with somebody's life in their hands,
right.
I can't even think, doing that on a daily basis is really going to put stress out there for them. And the stress is going to, again, increase cortisol levels. They're peaked.
Yep.
And heart rate, once again, goes
and they
up.
stay peaked and up
For a while.
and that's not good. It's not good. We're not meant to run that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But, we have a good community out there that puts it on the line every day. They volunteered to do this. They're committed to it. And, it's a darn good thing we have them, because how many people wouldn't make it if we didn't have them?
For sure.
So, in doing what we're doing, to participate in the health of firefighters, to me it's a pretty good way to finish the race, as it were, for me.
Well, I got you. And we're going to get into your story another day. But
Right.
I really, you've been around the medical industry for more than, 30 plus years? Maybe. I'm not
35.
I'm not calling you old, but, about 30 plus years.
Yeah. Math doesn't lie.
Well, no, I'm kind of not far behind you. But when we look at these things, and from your experience, when you look at this list, just some of the things we got, do you think a lot of this is preventable or can be addressed through prevention?
I would think so. I mean, about the one thing that, and I don't know if it really arrived on the list, is that, genetics are genetics.
Sure.
But at least being aware of the genetics, one cannot then stack on all the other risk factors and give a genetic tendency for, say, cardiac issues a head start.
Right.
So yes, absolutely. You can't control the genetics, but you can control all of the other cause factors: diet, exercise. You've got a choice to get some rest or go do something. Well, maybe you pick get some rest. Keep your head in a better place.
Well, that's even like talking about cancer. One of the things we've learned about cancer, we're all subject to the same exposures for the most part. We try to limit them, but it's almost like if you have a piece of wood that's extra dry, it's been out in the sun, it's not had any water in it, it's more likely, it's easier for it to catch fire than one that's damp. So if we have a genetic predisposition to something like cancer, these exposures, they affect all of us, but it can affect a certain demographic even more. So
Absolutely.
it's that type of stuff that's important to understand. And that's why things such as enhanced screenings, physicals, imaging, all of that plays into helping to prevent a lot of these issues. Now, some of them are just things we're going to have to live with because it comes with the territory. But at the same time, there's a lot we can do to make our careers a lot longer.
Yeah, I think you can say, universally that early detection in so many different health issues is absolutely crucial to identify buildup of plaque in an artery. It is to be able to monitor it. There are medications for it that work, and in some cases there are medical procedures to be performed that will prolong life for many, many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Interceptor Health is cutting the way for that. Y'all are finding ways to make the imaging, the physicals, and that part of it much more effective for firefighters to help us live longer and have a more satisfying career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, good objective. It's a good role.
Yeah. Well, you know, you may have heard some background noise. You might have seen me adjusting the camera a little bit. We are actually in a hotel right now, going over these numbers and everything. But I had the privilege of having John and the Interceptor team with us over at our booth at SAFRE. And we look forward to working with you guys some more before too long. But
Absolutely.
so if people want to learn a little bit more about you, Interceptor Health and all that, where can they find out about that at?
Well, we are not quite done with the website yet, but we're getting there. In fact, we have a call a little bit later on for Vaughn and I to review the content. And if you're still here, we would love your input.
Cool.
And we'll once we really have that online, we'll put the word out. I'm not thinking it's going to take much more than a couple more weeks.
Okay, well, very good. Is there an email that people could email you at if they got a question?
We are shooting for john.hutton@interceptorhealth.com, and it's john.huttn@interceptorhealth.com.
And the cool part is, if you send that email to him, John, you will get it.
Absolutely, and I will answer it.
And that's the nice thing about you guys. It's full transparency. You can talk to the boss man, so to speak, right off the get-go. And if you're a chief that's wondering about NFPA physicals and stuff like that, I encourage you to talk to these guys. They can open your eyes to what's going on. But anyway, we just want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit here on All Clear. We're going to have a few more clips with some other folks from SAFRE as we go forth. But as we always say, light your fire within. I'm Travis. This is the All Clear Podcast. I've got Arash Kasebi with me yet again. Arash, why don't you tell them who you are?
Hey, I'm Arash Kasebi. I'm a postdoc research scholar at NC State University working under Dr. Ormond at the Textile Protection Conference Center. Outside of that, I'm also a volunteer firefighter at Fairview Fire Department in Apex, North Carolina.
How many years you been doing that now?
Doing that since around 2014, 2015, around there. I started out at Northern Wake Fire Department for about 10 years and then switched over to Fairview about a year and a half ago.
So is it more fun being a firefighter or more fun working in the science world?
Oof. That puts me in a trap. I have to say that I just enjoy doing both because of the bridge that it puts you on, because you get to see the cool science that goes into firefighting.
Dr. Orman will like that answer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, being able to take the insight from the fire service and being able to administer that through good scientific practices and make sure that all the firefighting research that we do is relevant to firefighters. So that way, when we do it, it's something that firefighters can use either through better standards, better products, or through better practices through things like their SOPs or their strategies and tactics on the fire ground.
Very good. So I know when we were walking up here to sit down, you were talking about a lot of stuff going on at NC State right now. Can you kind of maybe let us in on some of the cool things that are happening?
Yeah, one of the major things that we're focusing on right now is the transition that the fire service is undergoing from the PFAS-containing products or the fluorinated products to the non-fluorinated products. So those main products are going to be the firefighting foams as well as the PPE or the firefighter turnout gear. We're seeing a lot of different product lines come out that are switching from things like DWR finishes or durable water repellent finishes, fluorine-free foams where there's certain capabilities that they have that, they don't have certain capabilities that the PFAS foams did. So for example, PFAS foams have different form filling layers, so that way you can have better effect on the fire. Whereas newer foams now don't really have that as much. You have to rely solely on that foam blanket.
So one of the things I remember Dr. Brian Norman, who you work with very closely, mentioned years ago, you guys came to Concord and gave a symposium for us. And one of the things he said was that there, at that time, were not a lot of options that the PFAS materials provided.
Yep.
Would you say that science has changed? Would you say there's more things becoming commercially available now that can give some of that same protection?
Yeah, there's more products out there than the last time that we met. There's more options as far as the moisture barriers go in terms of switching from the fluorinated moisture barriers to the non-fluorinated.
Sure.
And the same goes for the outer shells, where we're seeing different types of DWRs that mainly right now we're seeing that the newer non-fluorinated barriers that are on the DWR finishes, they are hydrophobic, but they're not oleophobic. So your products like diesel fuel, gasoline, and hydraulic fluid, we're seeing that those are more readily soaking into the outer shell of newer released turnout gear than before 2022 or so.
I know that when you bring up PFAS anywhere near a firefighter, they'll have an opinion.
Yeah, they'll have an opinion. I think throughout we've seen almost like an industry-wide knee-jerk reaction to the topic because, one, it's new to us. It's something that we've really seen as a possible threat, and as such, it's something that we do as firefighters. We often do risk assessments not only with the job, but also the logistics, the products, and everything that revolves around the job, including our gear.
Yeah.
And like other things that we're doing now, we're trying to make sure that firefighters can retire, that they can live healthily, and they can make it to use those pensions that we work hard for.
Yep.
And at the same time, be able to still effectively do their jobs. So that way, any products they get now will still allow them to have similar or better capabilities of continuing the tasks that they do, whether it's structural firefighting, WUI, wildland firefighting, or fire investigators.
Yes, and the fire investigator stuff kind of falls in my world, and it makes me feel good to know that people are concerned about all those different, like, smaller aspects of firefighting. But so anything else we can look forward to? Maybe any new technologies for cleaning or anything like that?
Oh, yes. We're looking at different ways that you can clean the gear that are starting to take traction nationwide. So
I got you.
That includes things like liquid CO2 cleaning and supercritical CO2 cleaning. Very new to us in the fire service, but it's basically a new way of washing the gear, so that way it's more able to take down a lot of different hydrocarbon-based products that come from structure fires, a lot of different PAHs or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. I won't say that twice.
That's too smart of a word for me.
But also looking at how we can clean the other gear better, such as your SCBA materials, boots, gloves, and helmets, as well as the products that come from lithium-ion battery fires, like those from EVs.
Right. I know that's another big one that we'll have to get into sometime. But good old soap and water, is it still good?
Good old soap and water, and the timing of it is more important than we realize. Any chance that you're able to do soap and water or some type of cleaning on the fire ground,
sure,
the better, because if you can leave as much of those contaminants on scene as you can, then that's less contamination that's going to land in other places, whether it's the calves of our first outs, the compartments, other people's hands, and other parts of the station. So if you can do some type of preliminary washing of that gear before you put it back in the compartment or the cab, much better you're going to be off, whether you're using liquid CO2 or standardized washing afterwards.
10 years ago, the North Carolina Firefighter Cancer Alliance was established. And one of our first actions, we produced a video called the Concord Decon Model, based off of what we were doing in Concord, where I work professionally. And a lot of the same stuff you're talking about is what we were preaching then. Wash it on site, at least get the crud off of it, bag it up, take it back, and do whatever you need to. So the science hadn't changed, but we're learning new stuff, I would say.
Oh yeah, so do we too.
Yeah.
One thing we're getting better at is making sure that whatever we find out about the contaminants and how to get them off, that we have ways that firefighters can adopt methods of getting rid of those contaminants in ways that aren't going to really hamper their current SOPs, aren't going to mess with the culture of fire departments. But in some ways, they should, because of how the more that we find out about these different types of threats to us, the more that we had to change as a fire service.
Yeah.
And that's not going to take just the academic institutions and manufacturers. It's going to take everyone that's involved with this.
Cultural change happens one conversation at a time. You don't make a big push.
I also heard one retirement at a time, but that's a different story.
Yeah, for sure.
But
all right.
yeah.
But cool. Now, thank you for taking time to come and meet us here at SAFRE and to talk. And we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you at South Atlantic Fire Rescue Expo.
Absolutely. So I got to tell you a story about Kim. How long have I known you? 7, 8, 9? It's been a long time.
Maybe, but I've been working for CSU for almost 20 years. So
what is CSU? Let's talk about that first.
Columbia Southern University. We are a 100% online university. Our home office is in Orange Beach, Alabama, but we are 25 1,000 students nationwide, and I've had the pleasure of speaking up to 30 of those students and graduates here in the last 2 days at South Atlantic Fire Rescue Expo.
So I've got to be honest. I got my bachelor's degree from Columbia Southern. This is not a sales pitch, I promise. But I want to let you guys know that when we talk about extra education in the fire service, people freak out. Why is Columbia Southern not a school that you should be scared of?
Well, we are geared towards first responders and the working adult. So
Right.
we have many degree programs in safety and emergency services, and the hallmark of CSU is our flexibility.
Yep.
And our affordability, and also our credit transfer.
Yes.
Because we look at first responders training certifications, any college that they've had, a military service record, if perhaps that applies to them, and we factor all of that in when they are looking at an associate's or a bachelor's degree.
And that is 100% true. They were able to look at my transcript and determine what I could do, what I needed to take, what I needed remediation on. I'm not good at math. But so Kim, when someone's looking at a school, not just Columbia Southern, but in general, when a fire service professional, maybe they're a chief officer or a captain, what should they be looking for in school?
Well, I would say what fits their schedule the best, because if it's not doable for you, then your chance of completion, of course, diminishes. But here at CSU, we are 100% there for our students. Customer service is a huge part of our business model, and we help our students every step of the way to be successful and towards completion of that degree.
So do you have any idea what the completion rate is for students to begin at Columbia Southern?
I do not off the top of my head,
That's fine.
but
I mean,
it is available. That information is available on our website. Our graduation rates are available on our site.
But I will say this, where I work professionally at Concord Fire, every person that I know that has started Columbia Southern has graduated, generally with a bachelor's degree, and they're very happy with their experience. And we preach that all the time. So do you want to talk a little bit about the partnership programs that you guys set up with a lot of departments?
Yes, we do have partnerships. Of course, we have a partnership with Concord Fire. Here, this is a booklet. So our partnerships, we partner with fire departments all over the United States, and it offers there's no cost or enrollment model to become a CSU learning partner. And it does offer benefits, a 10% tuition discount, and that discount does extend to immediate family members. But we also award scholarships, and under our tuition and financing tab, under our website, you will find information on all of our scholarship offerings, including learning partner scholarships.
So I do want to talk about this for a minute. So I'm going to kind of deviate away from Columbia Southern specifically. Check with your municipality, check with your department, see if there are any tuition reimbursement programs available. That was one of the things that helped me graduate without any student debt. And there's so many people that have student debt now, we have to be careful of that.
That's true.
So that's one of the other beautiful things about Columbia Southern. They'll help you find a way to get your education.
We will. And our programs have also been approved for federal student aid, and that information is also available on our website under the tuition and financing
And
tab.
I'm going to point again on that. If you have not applied for FAFSA, you should. It will help you, particularly if you're an older adult like I was, that when I got my bachelor's degree, it makes a big difference. So we just want to take a minute to talk to the folks here at Columbia Southern, and it's good to see you again, Kim.
It's so good to see you,
All
Travis.
right.